Hello, everybody. My name is Lena Bulckaerts, and I work as a network manager at Beter Leefmilieu, which is the umbrella organization of the environmental movement in Flanders, in Belgium. In my work, I focus on how local communities across Flanders can accelerate the transition towards waste prevention and thus a circular economy. Today, I would like to talk to you about how communities can enhance the circular economy and how they can help drive policy change around waste and circularity. Before we start, I want to mention that most of the examples and lessons I will share with you, they come from our work in Flanders. So, because this is where my expertise lies, but so the most elements will not translate to your local context. But I hope that nevertheless you'll be able to think how, in what ways can it, if we change it, maybe still translate, or maybe there are still some things that can inspire you. Um, Before I start with diving deeper into my expertise, I just want to sketch the problem. Oh, I just want to sketch the problem. And so we go to a report published by the International Resource Panel of the United Nations in 2024. And they research interesting things there. For example, they stated that excessive resource use is the main driver of the triple planetary crisis, climate change, pollution, and biodiversity loss. And pollution and biodiversity loss are linked to more than 95% of pollution and biodiversity loss are linked to our current linear economy. So our economy that generates a lot of waste. Global resource consumption continues to grow by around 2.3% every year, and advancing circular economy could support all sustainable development goals and can reduce inequality. If we then go to the European context, we see similar findings. The latest available data is from 2023, so I couldn't find more updated data. But when you go to the European context, you see that our material footprint, so the products and the waste that we generate, are actually very high, also compared to the global context. It is around 14.1 tons per person in 2023, and waste generation in the EU was around 5 tons per person in 2022. If the whole world consumed resources at the same level as us Europeans, we would exceed the planetary boundaries, so what the planet could regenerate. So how do we then reduce our material footprint? Something that we all already know, we need to move away from the linear economy and go towards a circular economy. In a linear economy, products that are produced, they are then used and thrown away once they are broken or no longer useful. But the materials inside those products, they are just outside the economy and they are not relevant anymore. They are treated as waste. In a circular economy, we try to keep those materials within the economic circle and actually use them for as long as possible and ideally forever. This means that we should design products that last longer, repair and reuse products, share products instead of everyone owning everything individually, sorry, and recycle materials back into the economy. But this transition requires action at every level. We need action from companies, citizens, communities, local governments, national governments, and European and global institutions. However, often when we talk about waste and circularity, the conversation focuses on individual behavior. But how easy is it really for people to make certain choices? For example, people ask themselves the question, should I sort my waste? Should I buy products that last longer or are are repairable. But when we look at the results that also come out of the petitions, some people they carefully sort their waste at home, but there are no convenient collection points nearby. The municipalities do not provide the right bin bags or guidance, so people get frustrated and they stop trying. The same with if people try to buy durable, repairable products, people may prefer them, but if the shops only sells the products that are cheap and short-lived, or if repairable products are not really around or expensive, what can you do? So changing the individual behavior is interesting and important, but it only can happen in a context that's supported. And I think that's also the outcome of most of the findings of what you have researched in your countries. And that is where community support and especially policy can come in to create the right kind of support system, because otherwise we remain stuck in one part of the circular transition, and that is what you see on the left side of the scheme, individual action, but we also need the right and the bottom side of the scheme, community action and especially local policy. And that is how we can go to a systemic circular change, which is what we want, because as an individual, you cannot have the impact to solve these very complicated macroeconomic challenges that we are facing. And this is where my story will go a bit more in depth. We will look a bit now how policy can create this supportive framework for a circular economy. Policy can make sustainable behavior easier, cheaper, and more accessible, while it can discourage unsustainable practices. And so for waste and circularity, it can make a huge difference. Some examples, local authorities and governments can install services and infrastructure like accessible collection points for sorted waste, home pickup services, clear communication and instructions to citizens. They can give free or subsidized sorting bags. They can implement eco-design rules, which make products repairable, give a minimum guarantee period to consumers, or implement that the amount of toxic substances in products should be reduced. Another example is economic incentives, like put taxes on single-use plastics, which make them more expensive. And then on the other hand, give subsidies for reusable products, which make them cheaper. So this to show that when the context is right, people's individual actions become easier, more effective, and more likely to last. But how can policy change? In policymaking, it's really a cyclic movement, and it has some clear steps. So first step is problem recognition, which is make the issue visible. For example, the local authority needs to see the overflowing waste bins. They need to see the plastic pollution in the rivers or the large amount of food waste. Then the second step is agenda setting. And here communities and NGOs and local media can push the issue on the policy agenda. After, you go to policy formulation. So officials and stakeholders, they design the solutions. For example, make new regulations, incentives, services, or pilot projects. The next step is then decision making, which is when the policies are adopted. And then after decision making, the fifth step is implementation and evaluation. So policies are implemented and later evaluated to see whether they work. So this makes it a cyclic movement. But what my key message is here is that communities, so groups of citizens, they can really influence every stage of this policy cycle, especially problem recognition and agenda setting. And there are several ways in which they can do that. For example, you can engage with authorities. And my tip is here, do not only communicate problems, but also propose solutions. For example, suggest collection points in parks or schools, propose incentives for reusable products, or support stronger repair and reuse policies. Collective action is also a really nice tool, like petitions, campaigns, social media, local events, and collaboration. And then my favorite one, because this is also where my work lies, is lead by example. Show what works to the local authority, um, because um, the government really appreciate it when you show that concrete examples already function in practice, and in that way you can inspire them. Such as, so examples are, you can start with a repair cafe, a sharing system, zero waste schools, or community-led reuse initiatives. And I think that's already many of you. That is where also your job lies, is lead by example. Um, I will go a bit deeper into this, and I will give a few examples. Um, and this is, I show the scheme again because I wanted to show you like communities so they can influence the local policy. In the examples that I will give about community work on circularity. This is really from our work in Flanders. And what we do is we act as a bridge between community groups and local authorities, strive to develop durable circular initiatives and also scale them up, like not only on the local level, but also scale them up on the Flemish level. Um, First example, I will not go very much in the depth because this is mostly waste management. So municipal waste collection is a very nice example of how it makes it a lot easier for citizens to collect and recycle waste. Then something that has really worked in Flanders and has become very popular is car sharing and bike sharing. We have a company called Cambio, and you find them all over Flanders now, where where people can rent cars for a certain amount of time. And it also started with a couple of citizens with an ID, and it has exploded to a region-wide initiative. And then we also have the Blue Bikes, which is a bike sharing system at stations in Flanders. And this also started with some citizens who thought it would be convenient if at the station in their community there would be shared bikes. And now it's also all over Flanders, and it's also supported by the Flemish government. Repair cafes, something very popular, and I think everybody knows this. People repair broken products together instead of throwing them away. And what is nice about these initiatives is that they also create social connection and knowledge sharing. So again, very much focused on avoiding waste. Tool libraries, also something nice. Instead of everyone buying tools that they rarely use, people can borrow them when they need it. So it's like a book library, but then with tools, because a lot of people in Flanders, they own tools that they only use once or twice a year. And then now we go into all the different kind of libraries. So also has become popular recently is libraries for baby equipment, where parents can get the stuff for their children, because children, they usually grow out really fast of the things, and then you are left with a lot of stuff. And it's also really nice meeting points for parents to talk about the issues and the fun things about parenthood. Bike libraries for children and adults, because same bikes for children. Also, children almost every year they outgrow their bikes, and in Flanders, a lot of people use bikes because it's like very flat, so it's nice to ride your bike. And it's also a library where people can rent their bike, and once the child has grown out of the bike, they can get a bigger bike. This is an example of reducing food waste in communal kitchens, but I will go a bit faster over these examples because of time. So if you have time and you can get to the PowerPoint afterwards, I would suggest you go deeper into those because they are nice. What I also really wanted to say is that all these circular community initiatives really create a wealth of opportunities. Apart from the environmental gains, there are so many additional social benefits linked to them. A first one is social inclusion and employment. Older volunteers and craftsmen, they can share skills and knowledge with younger people. And in that way, they can create opportunities for young people with a distance to the labor market, such as refugees, because it gives a sense of purpose and it's really valuable work. It also works on community building. They reduce loneliness and they strengthen social ties and create a sense of community. Of course, they reduce overconsumption because it encourages people to avoid unnecessary consumption, share, repair, reuse, and repurpose products. So you again are there in the waste prevention, which is very important. It also reconnects people with products. People become more aware of how products work, and thus they develop more care for them. It also creates affordable access, sharing systems. They make products and services more accessible for everybody, and especially for people with lower incomes. And then also in line with what I'm telling here today, it generates better cooperation with local authorities because they can strengthen trust between citizens and local governments. So it stimulates democracy and participation. But how then, if you have a nice idea for a circular initiative, how can you then engage your local government and thus make this policy change? And I have made a list of some tips that have worked here in Flanders. So this is again really specific to our local context, but I hope it can give you some inspiration for your context. What really helped with this is show a practical toolkit of what you want to do to your local municipality. Then they know step by step what will be the result of your project. Make the project attractive, positive, and accessible. So show the social, environmental, and economic benefits. This also always works with local governments. Leave room for local ownership. If you have an idea and you want to attract volunteers, make sure that they have space to have their own ideas. That's also very important. Map existing initiative and identify opportunities. What also really works for local authorities, if you show that you collaborate with, for example, local businesses and really create an ecosystem. Very classic to circularity is that it touches upon different departments, environment and climate, work, social economy, local economy, social affairs and participation. And it's nice that if you contact a local authority, you try to go to all these departments because then you have different entryways to put your point on the agenda. Assess each year how your initiative evolves and also communicate this to the local authority, show where your obstacles lie because then maybe they can help, but also show how you have improved. Something that has really worked in Flanders is support for infrastructure by local authority. Go to them and say, we need a space for this, and maybe they have some space. And this can even lead to circular hubs where many circular initiatives are together, like municipal waste collection, a repair cafe, a sharing system. And if it's all in one place, it's very clear for the citizens and also for the local authority. And then it can be a super cool vibe in that space, really like a vibrant vibe. Appoint one municipal contact person, which can be a bridge builder between your initiative and the municipality. It's really nice as this person really is engaged with what you're doing, then you can get a lot of things done. Use municipal communication channels to communicate about your initiatives, like their newsletters, social media, websites. And in general, when you're communicating about your events, it can also be nice to link it to international initiatives like Circular Monday or Earth Overshoot Day. Then to end, I want to give an example of an example in Flanders where a rural municipality has created um, a very nice circular ecosystem, and they because you see these ecosystems often in big cities, but here this local municipality has actually like they have been very innovative, and they were able to also do it in a rural context. Um, Voila. It is a small municipality on the border with the Netherlands. It has 34,000 inhabitants, and it's like a very rural community. There are a lot of farmers. And these are all the initiatives they have. They have a repair cafe, a tool library, a bike library, Free Willy, which is free bikes and also care bikes for people with a disability or older people. They have a baby stuff library, a car sharing with a municipality car. So the people of the municipality use this car, but also citizens and visitors can use it. And they also have bike sharing, Blue Bike, and they also have municipal waste collection, which is not on the slide. How did they do it? So it actually started with one circular initiative, a repair cafe, and this was a huge success. So the people of the repair cafe, they went to bigger cities and they saw, oh, they have a bike library there, a baby library there. Maybe we can also do it with the volunteers we have. And this had thus a big snowball effect. And the local authority couldn't ignore the snowball effect, and that so many citizens were very interested and enthusiastic about it that they wanted to get involved. They decided to help with the communication, and they promote these initiatives in their Facebook, WhatsApp, and the local newspaper. And 2 years ago, they also appointed a circular hub in a school for adult education because they had too many initiatives and they couldn't find a spot anymore. And also the rent was expensive, which is also always a challenge for a volunteer project. So they were put in a space for free rent because the local authority was co-owner. And there is also one person from the local authority who is the bridge builder. And it's very good because she is also involved in the initiatives and also in the local authority, which makes her a very reliable person to help them with challenges. What I want to say with this is that you can work on a systemic circular change if you engage the local community and the local authority. This really has a way to accelerate this change. So to wrap up, I wanted to tell to you that individual actions matter, but they are most effective when the context supports them. Policy creates that context, making sustainable behavior more easy, more practical, and more rewarding. But communities are essential actors by proposing solutions, organizing actions, and showing examples. In that way, they can push policy to enable circularity. And I think what makes this project again clear that small actions can turn into a systemic change. Voila, this was my presentation. Thank you for listening.